another episode of The Journey. We are so glad that you took time out to join us. And today, woo, you are truly in for a treat. We have the one and the only Miss Lakweshia Ewing. Now, for anyone who doesn't know her, which I don't know how you don't, but for anyone who doesn't know her, let me tell you, if I had to describe her, I would say she is an educator, an innovator, a strategist, a visionary. She's a minister, she's a speaker, a facilitator. She's a little bit of everything. She, to me, is the absolute quintessential definition of a Renaissance woman. So without further ado, thank you so much, Lakweshia Ewing, for coming on with us today.
Thank you for having me, Brandalyn. Thank you for having me.
So I know that I just listed all these wonderful titles that you have, in my opinion, but if someone asked you to talk about yourself and to say exactly what it is that you do and what you represent, how would you say? How would you answer that?
I would hope that that what I represent is the kingdom of God.
Absolutely.
But through that, I think God has gifted me to be a solution to somebody's problem.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives you a lifetime to figure out what it is you're to be doing and for it to evolve. And then I think that that I am a lover of people.
Mm-hmm.
That's
simple as that.
That's it. Those are my words. Like I just, I actually try not to label myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, for me, it's important that, that the labels that I do bore are just the ones that God has given me.
I hear you. So before we kind of get into some of the projects that you're currently working on, let's back up and kind of start at the genesis of this. So I know that you have a lot of different degrees. But did you really know at that time where you were like when you look at where you are now and how you started, did you see yourself at this point? Like, how did you start?
So the degrees are very, very interesting because I understand now why I needed the ones that I received.
Mm-hmm.
But they were not intentional. Gotta be careful. They were not intentional at all. I started out as a psychology major. I majored in applied science first.
Mm-hmm.
And then I majored in psychology, Africana studies, sociology. Then I made my way to education, and ultimately to organizational leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And so what ended up happening was I understand now why all of these things existed. Like I understand why I needed all of these various degrees, but no, they weren't intentional. I come from a family of preachers and teachers, and I actually ran from both and indirectly landed in both.
Wow.
And so that's kind of my journey.
Wait a minute. Let's back up.
Sure.
You ran from that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you're a minister, so I know this will preach. You ran from that and indirectly ended up in both. So let's talk about that for just a minute. When you say you ran from that, so I'm assuming, talk about that a little bit. You wanted to have nothing to do with that life at all?
Right. So, my mom worked in public education for 30 plus years. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like, it was just like the struggle life, but it was like, yeah, teaching is not the glamorous life, right? You remember that old song? The glamorous life. Yeah. It wasn't the glamorous life. And so she worked so hard. And while my heart would always connect with the fact that my mom loved her students, loved what she did, I was just like, man, like, I don't want to do that. Like, I was just like, I don't want to do that. And so it was when I say I ran from education, it was really for career purposes. It was like, this isn't the career that's going to yield high income, right? Like I'll be okay, but it's not going to be high income. And then the ministerial part of it, I think we all have those years where we just like, God, I know you want me. I ain't really sure that I can give myself to you yet.
Yeah.
So
I know you called me, but can we let it run the voicemail for just a minute?
Right. Can we, can I get a deferment? right?
That's it.
Can I get a deferment
just
on my calling just for about 10 years?
10 years. That's all I need.
10 years. And what ends up happening, you might as well do it right the first time.
Yes.
Because you're going to ultimately, the thing about it is wherever you go, there you will be.
Absolutely.
Wherever you go, there you'll be.
There you will be. You said that you are, which I love this, you're the solution. You are the solution. So how did you get to that point? How did you realize that you were the solution to problems with everything that, all your degrees?
So the thing that I had to realize first was that my life wasn't accidental, that I'm divinely made, fearfully and wonderfully made, that God purposed for me to exist and to be here. And so instead of examining my life as everything that happened in my life as errors or downturns or missteps or mistakes or problems, and instead of seeing my life that way, I had to get to a point where I realized that, these are just ordered steps. And while these ordered steps very well may not be, they may not feel good, they may send me into a valley. These are the ordered steps, and they're carving out the pieces in me that is going to help me to become everything that God would have me to become. So I needed to exist because someone, somewhere, at some point in this lifetime is going to need whatever it is that God has gifted me to do. So when I say I'm a solution, it's not because I feel like I am the solution and I got all the answers. It's not that kind of
right.
It's like I had to get to the point where I realized that I mattered. And I matter because God saw fit for me to exist. Like if there was no need for me, then I wouldn't be here. And so I think the time that I spent doing work on myself, figuring out all of my insecurities, figuring out all of my vulnerabilities. And I believe in the adage of strengthening your strengths, not strengthening your weaknesses. Because if I strengthen something that I'm only 10% good at best, I'm gonna be 30. But if I strengthen something that I'm 70% good at, then I'll get to 100 and I can maximize that. So why am I gonna, spend my lifetime only getting partially better at a thing that really I wasn't really built to do this, right? Like
absolutely.
But I know I was built to do the things that I'm doing now. So at 41, I can say I'm doing things not because my life is over, but like at 41, I'm like I know the things that I'm doing that God has gifted me to do them, and I know without God I couldn't do them because some of them, when I write it all down on my little dry erase board in my office here. I'm just sitting there like, man, how in the world am I supposed to do all that?
So God is speaking on intention. You're speaking on intention. Everything that you do now is intentional, but you had to evolve to get to that point. I know that you mentioned going through some valleys to get to that point. Are you comfortable sharing some experiences that kind of shaped who you are now? Because I think a lot of times it's the experiences that we go through that people can connect with. Sure. So what can you just share one of those that maybe made you realize, that now on the other side of it, you realize I had to go through that to get to this point?
Yeah. So there's been multiple times where I've had a scenario that had different players, but it was the same scenario because I'm hard-headed. And didn't get it the first time, and so I had to go through it again. But in the course of my professional career, what I had to learn was that there is no blueprint. I don't care what anybody tells you. There is no blueprint to your life that God didn't draw. All right, and so I started like a list of things that I thought I needed to do in order to achieve professional success.
Got you.
And it wasn't until I started to fail at those things that I realized that having a list did not guarantee success. Having a checklist by which you do all the things doesn't guarantee success. And it was in the failures that I learned the most. And the reason I say failure, it was failure in the moment, not failure over a course of a lifetime.
Right.
In that moment, it felt like exhaustive failure, but really it was just me failing at a thing, and it was good for me, right? Scripture says it was good for you that I was that good for us that we were afflicted.
Yes.
It was good for me that I failed, because what I learned was humility. I learned fortitude that maybe I didn't have as much of that I should have had. I learned perseverance, and more importantly, I learned endurance. I can take some things now, Brandalyn, that I couldn't take before. Professionally, if I came in contact with someone who tried to minimize my existence or minimize my voice, or someone at a powerful table who tries to exclude me, I would crumble like a piece of notebook paper. Like I would never, I mean, I would hold strong because we're taught to hold strong at the table, but at home I would be, like weak as water. I would be weeping. But I've learned that, you know what? I deserve to be the places that God has sent me. And I don't have to become anything else to be there. I just have to
be yourself.
Be who he created me to be.
Absolutely. So what advice would you give to someone who, because, well, let me back up and say this. You're so unique to me, because so many of us are tied to a 9 to 5. We're tied to brick and mortar. We have to be in this box, and so you have taken your skills and kind of just honed your own and said, this is what I'm going to do. What would you say to someone who looks at you and says, wow, that's what I want to do. I want to be my own boss. What's the biggest piece of advice you would give to them?
Whew. So, well, the first piece I'll say is don't quit your job. So this is not
benefits.
Listen, no. Yeah, listen. The first thing is, and everybody, all these gurus out here saying, take the leap and jump off the bridge and all these other things. Listen, live your dream. I told somebody your dream will become a nightmare very quickly.
Come on now.
If God didn't tell you what to do or how to do, and you have no plan. So while I say, you don't need in the beginning story, I was talking about I had a plan for the plan. This is a different kind of planning. This is a God-driven plan, right? So I did have a plan. I had ordered steps on my job every day. I mean, I got vacation days. I have ethics. So I only did this with my personal and vacation days. I worked the 9 to 5 for several years early in my career, but I was off on the weekend. So all my weekends for several years, this is before I got married, all of this, I dedicated it to generating revenue, income for myself, right? So I was out speaking. Any skills that I got, I was reading up on stuff, learning how to translate it into markets. Again, being a solution for somebody's problem. So on my vacation and personal days, I had a plan by which I made sure I made a goal that I wanted to make $150 more a day on every vacation and personal day. So what that meant was I took those days to take other engagement. I didn't take my vacation and go to the beach and lose money and spend money. I made those for 4 years. I took those vacation days, and I consulted all over the country. I talked to people, I spoke, I did trainings on the little bit of information that I had learned at that point. By this point, I had taken a great deal of funds, a great deal of dollars, and was able to invest them in other things that would yield a return, right? Because again, I'm not, it wasn't like I was out picking potatoes, right? Like Absolutely. I could go, like I came home at 5 o'clock-ish, 6 o'clock-ish on any given day, and I was off Saturday and Sunday. So I had time to rest. It's not like work, because I don't believe in that adage. Early in my life, I did. I'm like, don't sleep, grind, get all the things that people are telling you. No, you need self-care. You need balance.
You believe in the ministry, ministry of self-care.
Correct. Listen, all about it. I'm all about it, Brandalyn. And so
what I hear you saying is you need have a plan. Don't just jump off and leap into no job. Have a job, but have a plan. Yeah. Invest in yourself, and then get on your grind. But understand there's self-care. That's the caveat to that. You have
and know what do you have to offer. The thing that the one of the things that for me, I had someone that I looked at when I was 23 years old. I came to Chattanooga. There was a woman who every board meeting I was able to be in, every impactful, influential meeting, I saw this woman, and she walked in and she impacted the room. She said things that people listened to. It would always change the tide of the conversation. And what was interesting was everybody that I asked, who is she? They all told me something different. They all engaged with her from different angles. So I never got that she's just one person, right? She does this. It was like she did all of these things. And so one of the things that I would always say is like, man, like, but she has it going on and she seems happy. Yeah. The part that I picked up on was she seemed happy to be there. Some of us felt like because of our jobs, we were on these committees. We had to, like she elected to be there and she was happy to be there. And so I just remember saying, I want to be that kind of person. You know, not necessarily I want to be her because I want it to be me, but I want to be that kind of person. And I came just this year, I was able to kind of come full circle because I was in a meeting. I did some video with this woman, and she, in her description of this interview, she defined me as a change maker and an influencer, which is two of the titles that people have given her to me for the last 15 years that I've been in Chattanooga. And I was like, man, like I need to tell her this story because I don't think she even knows how much I admire her.
Did that tear you up just a little bit? Was that?
It did.
Would that be?
Not a little bit. It teared me up. Period. I treated her to lunch. We were having lunch for various reasons, but I ended up telling her this story because that was a aha moment for me. And so that's the other thing. If you are in a space, if you don't have your hand reaching back to pull somebody forward, then you're not doing it right. And if you get to the next level and there's no one there to guide you, you've gotten there too soon. There's always a predecessor.
I need you. Wait a minute. That was a good nugget. Say that one more time.
If you look and you don't have a hand behind you pulling someone else up to where you are at the present, then you're not doing it right. And it being life, you're not doing it right. And if you get to the next level, the next stage in life, and there's no one there to guide you, you've gotten there too soon because God always sends a successor.
A successor.
A predecessor, I'm sorry. A predecessor.
Oh, you mean, now let me ask you this. Sure. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you're doing now.
Sure.
I know.
What are the
How much time do we have left?
Listen, I over the last year and a half, pre-COVID, I had the luxury, a lot of people don't know this. Actually, this may be the first time I'm saying it publicly.
An exclusive.
But it's an exclusive, yeah. I traveled the transatlantic slave trade for a year and a half. I started in England, and because a lot happened with the Church of England in regards to slavery in the colonized Americas. And so started there. Everywhere I went, I ministered to, but I was on a research and a learning tour. So I started in Manchester, London, Manchester, and then London, England. And then I came home for a little while. Then I went to Nigeria, where a lot of Africans were stolen for transport for slavery. And then I came home for a little while. And then I went to Ghana with some friends, and we went to the slave fortresses and things like that. Came home for a little while. Then I went to Dominican, came home for a little while. And then I went to Brazil. And so all of these pathways, like those last two, those are African nations, even though they have Spanish and Latin roots, they have African roots too. And so, because that's part of the diaspora. So in learning all of that, I kind of find it interesting where I am sitting now here in Chattanooga, having launched the Chattanooga Racial Equity Collective, which is a group of independent consultants who are amazing. They have their own businesses around various mediums of racial equity training and learning. And so we've been able to come together and offer this to our community. And so we're getting ready to launch some really cool trainings and forums for our community around racial equity and reconciliation. I already have my own consulting company where I do a myriad of trainings. I'm not going to even go through all of them, but team building, organizational strategy, design thinking, all of these kind of things. And so I was able to do that. My husband, does a lot of digital marketing through another business that we have. And so I've been extremely blessed and fortunate to take all of the gifts and talents that God has given me and use them in a myriad of places. But I do it for the upbuilding of the kingdom. I do believe that there are territories that we are to permeate, and the marketplace is one of them.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm gonna give you one more question, and then I promise I'll get you out of the hot seat.
No, you're fine.
If you were to look back at 10-year-old Lakweshia, what would you say to her based on where you are right now?
Man, I want to say something real petty.
You say whatever the spirit leads you to say.
I want her to tell our mama that the Jerry curl is a bad idea. No, just
Oh, yes, we're gonna do that. Yes. There's a lot of things I tell my mom too.
But
you don't send a sixth grader to school with pigtails. Go ahead.
Don't do that. It's a bad idea.
It's just wrong.
But I think I would tell my 10-year-old self to stay strong. A lot of the strength that I have now as an adult came from the trials and tribulations of my childhood, my upbringing, without my dad being incarcerated, all this, things that I've shared kind of publicly before. But at 10 years old, I think the biggest lesson for me would have been not only to stay strong, but also to have fun.
Yes.
I'm having so much fun at 40 for all the years that I didn't, because I had a plan, remember? Like, right. When I got that list, my goal was to move from point A to point B, and it was like by any means necessary, even if that meant self-sacrificing. So I was right. I was trying to, and man, now, somebody asked me today, what you doing today? I had two things. I was like, I'm going down to the Wildflower tea room and apothecary to get some drops, and
that's about it.
I'm gonna send these 2 emails, and I'm
just gonna. So how do you like to have fun now? Like, what is your self-care? You're just
everything. Listen, everything I do is having fun, because the beauty is I don't have to do any of the things that I'm doing. See, that's the liberation. Like, I ask people, what would you do every day if you never got paid for it? Because that's the thing that's going to bring you joy. And ultimately, when you throw yourself into that thing, then I don't chase money. People, I'm chasing the bag. For what? It ain't going nowhere. Not my bag. My bag is my bag.
There it is.
I got to chase it.
It's coming to me.
It's going to come to me.
Right.
It's going to come to me. Right. And so I make godly decrees upon my life, upon my family's life, what God has for us naturally, not just financially, like spiritually, like God, send love my way. I have a motto right now I have 2 actually. One is appreciate everything.
Absolutely.
I appreciate everything. The good, the bad. I done had some drama-filled days in these COVID streets trying to help people. I've had, I've had my name disparaged. I've had my credit, my character and credibility slander. I've had all these things. I appreciate it all. Even Jesus had a Judas, and he picked him.
Absolutely.
But he never treated Judas any different, Brandalyn, than he treated James or Peter or John. He treated them the same. You gotta love anyway. My shirt says, be a nice human.
Be a nice human.
Be a nice human. That's it. That's what brings me joy. Like that even in the midst of adversity, even in the midst of attacks and turmoil and pandemonium and pandemics, that when I'm abased and when I'm abound, I believe that the word of God declares the truth that guides my life, and I'm appreciating everything. Count it all joy. It's all for my good. I'm embracing it, the good, the bad, the ugly. It's who I am today. It's who God's created me to be. So
you just roll with it. When I tell you, I don't know, and I know that, well, let me say this. I know that we have to develop as people and get to a certain point in life in order to really shape our purpose and who we are and get on the right path. I just don't understand how you did not know ministering and teaching. You had no choice. It was in you. It was in you. Do you realize in our
I was just
conversation?
talking.
Oh
This
my
is
gosh.
even now. Like I'm just talking. I'll tell people, I'm like, why y'all listen to me? I'm just talking. I don't know.
But the nuggets that you drop. Do we need to go back through this conversation? I mean, you've dropped so many positive and wonderful nuggets. You know, we start off talking about failures and how your failures are actually just a bridge to, it's part of your success because you have to go through those to get to where you need to be. Then you know, you talked about, you just dropped so many. I can't even remember them all because I made you repeat them. Then if you're not reaching back to pull somebody up, and if nobody, you said so many, and I can't wait for this to for everybody just to hear this. I think you are amazing. Your voice needs to be heard. Don't discount yourself by saying, you know, I'm just talking, because you're not just talking. You're not just talking. It's intentional. Everything you say, it is meant to be said for someone. And that's the whole point of the journey. So I truly appreciate you. Thank you so much for giving us your time. And you guys, we will be here for just a little while. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them below. We would love to answer those for you. And while we're doing that, if you don't mind, could you tell people how they can get in contact with you and your, if they want to follow you on social media?
Sure. You can follow me at unlearneverythingandlive.com. That's unlearneverythingandlive.com. Or you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook at unlearnlive. Or you can just follow me on regular Facebook, Lakweshia, Lakweshia. When you type that in, I'm the only one that's going to pop up. But my last name is Ewing, Ewing. Drop me a line on my website. I love to talk to folks. I have a few things going. I have a podcast myself that I've partnered with Rise Chattanooga. So I've had it now for a few months. It's called the Get School Block Party, where music meets mindset, where I interview different people using lyrics of songs. We talk about various things. And so we have one out there now. You can go to Amplify, or you can go to my website and get the latest podcast episodes. And I'll give you another exclusive. My book, my solo book is, I'm waiting on my proof. I've been working on this project for over 3 years, if not more, actually.
Wow.
It's getting ready to drop. It's a book entitled While They Sat by the Window, Unlearning the Effects of Broken Father-Child Relationships. And so it's my baby. It's a blueprint. I love. I'll have to come back and talk about that, because that's a whole nother journey to how I've gotten to where I am, learning how to mend and to forgive and to heal, and not bring toxic things from my past to my present.
Oh my God. Well, listen, we're going to make sure to put all of that information below, to get to your website, to get to the podcast. I can't wait for this book. I am so happy for you. Oh my goodness. I'm so happy for you. Well, thank you so much for your time. Everybody, thank you so much for listening to us. Please feel free to drop questions that you have below. We'll be here for a little while. But again, thanks for watching The Journey.